My name is Jenna Gonzalez. On my 18th birthday, my mom handed me a trash bag and a one-way train ticket. She said, "You're no longer one of us." 10 years later, they declared me dead. I walked into my own funeral. Shocking. Their reactions were unforgettable. I simply said, "Miss me." Most people imagine what their family might say at their funeral, but I watched my own mother read my obituary while I stood there, alive and breathing. They held a service, erased me from photos and memories, sold my belongings, claimed my inheritance, and rewrote history as if I had never existed. They assumed I would stay gone forever. But I didn't. It began with a notification in my quiet apartment, far from Columbus, Ohio. An email from an old friend appeared, attaching a post that sent a chill through me. My face in black and white, labeled, "In memory of Jenna Gonzalez, beloved daughter and sister, gone too soon." Comments flooded in about missing me and how tragically I had left, all posted by my family. My heart raced as I realized they had buried me without a shred of truth. They didn't just disown me, they erased me on paper. The service footage showed them gathered, faces somber, mourning a lie. Grief and fury twisted together inside me, sharp and unyielding. I had built a life from scraps, believing I had moved on. But this pulled me back. If they wanted me dead, I would return as the shock they never expected. If this story stirs something in you, like feeling erased or standing up to betrayal, leave a comment with your thoughts. Where are you watching from? Subscribe and turn on notifications for more raw, unforgettable stories like this. You won't want to miss the next one. It was a normal Tuesday evening when my phone buzzed. I was sorting through mail in my small apartment, the kind of routine that kept my life steady after years of starting over. The alert was from my email, something I rarely checked anymore. But the sender's name stopped me. Crystal Walker, my old high school friend from Columbus. We hadn't spoken in over 10 years, not since late-night talks about dreams and escape. Her subject line was brief. "Is this you? Urgent." I opened it, expecting a mistake or spam. Instead, her message hit like ice water. "Hey Jenna, I found this on Facebook. I thought you were gone. Everyone said so." Attached was a screenshot. My photo from age 16, black and white, with bold text beneath it. "In loving memory of Jenna Gonzalez, our cherished daughter and sister, 1995 to 2015. The death date was 2 years after they kicked me out. My pulse quickened as I scrolled. Comments from relatives followed. "Such a tragedy. Gone too young. We pray for her peace every day." Posted by Julie Gonzalez, my sister. The room tilted. I leaned against the counter, staring at the screen. This wasn't a joke. It felt intentional, carefully planned. Crystal's message continued. "Your family held a service. I didn't go, but I heard it was big. They said it was a car accident." I refreshed the page, hoping it would vanish, but it stayed there, mocking me. Before I could gather myself, I clicked the link she sent. A video from the memorial loaded slowly, then filled my screen. The hall was the Columbus Community Center. Rows of chairs packed with neighbors and cousins I'd grown up with. Soft music played as the camera passed faces dressed in black. Then it centered on her, my mother, Helen Gonzalez. She stood at the podium, composed and calm, her voice steady. "We remember Jenna, a lost soul who strayed from the path. She's at rest now, and we find peace in that." I paused the video, my hands trembling. They hadn't searched for me or wondered. They had written my ending. The video continued. The audience nodded, no one questioning the story. Julie sat in the front row, expression empty. My father, Paul, shifted beside her. My brother, Christopher, stared at the floor. A slideshow followed, childhood photos from Columbus parks and family gatherings, ending abruptly in my teen years. When it ended, silence filled my apartment. I replayed parts, noticing every detail. The false tears, the rehearsed prayers. A tight, relentless knot formed in my chest. This went beyond rejection. They had turned me into a ghost. I texted Crystal. "What is this? I'm alive. Who started this? Her reply came quickly. Your mom told everyone. Said you disappeared after a fight, then died in a crash. The service was at the community hall. Packed. I read it again, the air feeling heavier. They had convinced the entire town, even friends like her. No one questioned it. No one searched for the truth. Crystal added, I believed it until I saw your profile pop up. I'm glad you're okay, but this is seriously messed up. That confirmed it. They had erased me in front of everyone I'd known in Columbus. As the evening faded, I paced my apartment, piecing it all together. The post, the video, the lies, it was all deliberate. I had survived alone, scraping by until I found stability. But this revelation cracked everything open. They thought I would disappear quietly. I wouldn't. The decision settled inside me, firm and unshakable. I needed answers. I had to know how far they'd taken this. For now, though, the shock pinned me in place, staring into the night as the glow of the screen reflected back at me. Memories rushed in as the cursor blinked, dragging me to that birthday in Columbus. I had pushed the door open quietly, the familiar creak of the hinges echoing through the entryway. The house smelled like leftover dinner, roast and potatoes, a staple of our middle-class routine. But the air was tense, buzzing with silent judgment. My mother, Helen Gonzalez, ruled the room from the couch, her expression hard as stone. She stood abruptly, grabbing the trash bag she'd prepared, items dropping inside like discarded fragments of my life. Then came the one-way train ticket to Cleveland, slapped into my hand like a sentence. Rebellion has no place here, Helen said, her voice calm but final. We won't let your rebellion drag us down. I scanned the room, panic rising. My father, Paul Gonzalez, paced near the bookshelf, fingers tracing spines without purpose, eyes fixed on the floor. Julie, my sister, sat on the armrest, her posture casual, her eyes sharp with quiet rivalry, as if my removal confirmed her role as the obedient one. My brother, Christopher, leaned against the wall, arms crossed in a way that signaled distance. Silent, neutral, unreachable. The bag sagged in my grip, the cheap plastic crinkling against my skin. After everything, this is how it ends? I whispered, the question unanswered. Helen folded her arms tighter. We gave you chances. Take your things and go. Paul's sigh broke the silence, soft and conflicted, but he didn't move. Julie tilted her head, satisfaction evident as she avoided my eyes, already weighing the benefits of my absence. Christopher shifted his feet, detachment shielding him while leaving me completely alone. I stepped into the crisp Columbus night. The suburban street felt unfamiliar beneath the porch light. I sank onto the curb, the sharp edges of the ticket biting into my palm, searching the windows for any sign of regret. The curtains never moved. That moment shaped the next 10 years of my life. Snapping back to the present, I closed the tab and opened social media, driven by the need to measure their betrayal. My profile search revealed ghosts, deleted tags, vanished connections. On Julie's account, a carefully curated story appeared. Smiling photos from neighborhood barbecues, a recent community center award, posts about family milestones where I didn't exist. Then I found a buried post from 8 years ago. A photo of my childhood bedroom, transformed. The bed frame gone. Walls repainted. Neutral. The curtains I'd hung myself missing. Embracing change by letting go of the old, Julie had written, hearts and encouragement flooding the comments. It was proof of their purge, my sanctuary erased and repurposed. Helen's timeline echoed the same theme. Bake sales, holiday lights in Columbus squares, captions about resilience and faith, unity emphasized through my absence. That digital cleansing pushed me deeper into my inbox. Paul's old drafts felt like unsealed letters. Jenna, that night was wrong. I let it happen. Another. Birthdays pass without you. I think of calling but don't. And later, your mother's vision for this family doesn't allow for conflict like yours. His unsent words exposed his struggle and his choice to value peace over me. Anger sharpened, clear and focused. I stood and paced the floor, absorbing the scale of it all. Helen's control. Paul's avoidance, Julie's self-serving adjustment, Christopher's quiet observation. Together, they formed a pattern of deliberate erasure. The remodeled room stood as a monument to their resolve, wiping me from the home itself. Determination hardened. I would tear down the illusion, but rushing back would weaken everything. This needed precision. I would gather proof, piece by piece, until the truth hit with undeniable weight. The next morning, sunlight filtered through my curtains as I dressed quickly, resolve pushing me out the door. The drive felt automatic, my thoughts looping through everything I'd uncovered. The county office in Columbus hadn't been part of my plan when I woke up, but necessity led me there. The clerk greeted me with practiced politeness and asked how she could help. "I need a copy of a death certificate," I said evenly. Her eyebrow lifted. "For a relative?" "For me," I replied. She typed my name without hesitation, the keys clicking. Then she froze. "According to this, you died in 2015. Vehicular accident." The words hung between us, absurd yet official. She printed the document and slid it across the counter. The paper felt stiff in my hands. My full name, my birth date, a fabricated death date. Signed by Helen Gonzalez. Cause of death: accidental car crash. The county seal stamped it real. A lie made legal. Holding the certificate, a cold shiver ran through me. This wasn't a mistake or clerical error. It was deliberate forgery. I slipped the document into my folder and walked out of the building, the morning rush of Columbus streets blurring past me. My next stop was the law firm that handled my grandmother's estate, a place I hadn't stepped into since I turned 21. The office looked exactly the same. The same sterile waiting area. The same receptionist, wearing a practiced smile. I asked to see Mr. Hargrove, the attorney who had managed the will years earlier. He stepped out of his office, adjusting his tie as recognition slowly crossed his face. "Jenna Gonzalez. We thought you were." His voice trailed off as he gestured for me to come in and sit across from his desk. I explained everything briefly. He pulled up the files on his computer, his brow tightening as he read. "Your portion was redirected after proof of death was submitted," he said. He printed the records and slid them toward me. The small trust, $10,000 meant to help me start over, had been transferred to Julie instead. Attached was the death certificate. Helen's signature stood out clearly. "I always thought it was odd," Mr. Hargrove admitted, but the paperwork checked out at the time. That confirmation lit something steady and dangerous inside me. They hadn't just erased me. They'd benefited from it. I left the office with copies in hand and stopped at a nearby cafe, spreading the papers out as I scrolled through old emails on my phone. Patterns emerged that I'd once brushed aside. Loan applications denied in 2020 and 2022, each citing the same reason: applicant deceased. One rejection letter spelled it out plainly. Records indicate the individual passed away in 2015. Back then, I'd blamed bureaucracy, too focused on surviving to dig deeper. Now it all aligned. A clear trail of sabotage. Back at my temporary place, I laid everything across the table. The county-issued certificate, state routing files, loan denials, screenshots from social media posts I'd saved earlier. I took photos, organized files, building a case piece by piece. The evidence told one story in black and white. My fingers hovered over the airline app as I searched for flights to Columbus. Booking a one-way ticket felt bitterly ironic, echoing that train stub from years ago. When the confirmation pinged, my intent locked in. I was going back, prepared to dismantle everything they'd built. As evening settled in, I packed light, mapping out the confrontation ahead in my mind. None of this was accidental. They'd orchestrated it to seal me out for good. Securing the folder, I paused to reflect on the path from being cast out to being declared dead. It hardened my resolve. Soon, I'd step back into their world with the truth they couldn't erase. A week later, the plane touched down in Columbus. The familiar skyline rose ahead as I stepped off, a rental car key already waiting in my pocket. Driving streets I once knew by heart felt surreal, distant. I slowed near my old neighborhood, parking 2 blocks away. From there, I watched the house. It looked untouched, manicured. The rose bushes Helen tended every weekend were in full bloom, deep red against the white siding. The porch swing creaked softly in the breeze, pulling memories from places I hadn't visited in years. That porch had been my refuge during tense dinners, my escape from arguments over grades and curfews. Now it stood like a guard over the life they'd rewritten, unchanged by my absence. I noticed a new mailbox. Fresh paint on the door. Care layered over concealment. This wasn't nostalgia that brought me here. It was reckoning. A passing car snapped me back to focus. I couldn't risk being seen yet. My phone buzzed. A message from my cousin, Blake Walker. Family gathering tomorrow for Julie's birthday. Thought you should know. Attached was a forwarded document. Julie's speech draft. I opened it, lines leaping off the screen. As the only daughter who stayed true to our values, I honor this legacy. Further down. We've endured losses, but our bond grows stronger with those who remain. I didn't exist at all. Blake added, Dana, and I think this is wrong. We're here if you need us. The arrogance in that draft sharpened my focus. Proof of their delusion, written in her own words. I drove to a nearby motel and checked in under a different name. Once inside, I pulled out my old phone, the one I'd kept out of sentiment, and powered it on. The battery flickered to life. Voicemails loaded slowly. Echoes from just after I'd been forced out. One from Paul, months later. Jenna, if you get this, things got out of hand. Another, quieter. Your mother doesn't regret it, but I do. Then Helen's voice, clipped and cold. Don't come back. You'll only cause trouble. And Julie's, smug and satisfied. The room's mine now. Better this way. Those recordings were unintended gifts, voices preserving regret and cruelty alike. That night, I arranged a quiet meeting with my aunt, Dana Walker. We met at a small coffee shop on the outskirts of town, far from familiar eyes. The game was finally moving forward. She arrived wrapped in a scarf, her face carrying equal parts worry and determination. I've stayed quiet for too long, Dana said as she slid into the booth. We spoke in low voices. She confirmed the story the family had been telling, explaining how they repeated the car crash tale at gatherings. Blake had overheard plans to redirect money, she added, describing hushed conversations about the estate. Blake and I have your back, Dana said, sliding printed invitations to Julie's party across the table. Her support felt like a lifeline, grounding me with insider truth and strengthening my resolve. Back at the motel, I mapped everything out. The party would be at the house, casual, catered, decorated, the perfect setting for an unexpected arrival. I'd walk in mid-event, folder in hand, and time my reveal during the speeches. I rehearsed in the mirror, practicing a calm, steady delivery, imagining their faces twisting in disbelief. The voicemails replayed in my head, sharpening my focus. I reorganized the evidence once more, making sure every piece aligned: certificate photos, estate records, loan rejections. Sleep came in fragments, but morning brought clarity. This wasn't reckless. It was deliberate. Exposure carried risk, but silence cost more. By noon the next day, I was driving toward the family home. Columbus streets blurred past, guiding me back to the address burned into memory. Cars lined the curb. Balloons bobbed at the gate. Celebration was already underway. I parked a short distance away, folder tucked under my arm, and walked to the front door. Laughter and voices spilled outside, a performance of joy that tightened my chest. The smell of grilled food drifted from the backyard, mixed with music and children shouting. I stepped inside. Conversation slowed, then stopped as faces turned and recognition set in. Julie stood near the center, cake in front of her, mid-conversation about a recent trip. Helen moved through the room with a tray of drinks, her smile collapsing when our eyes met, the tray tilting slightly. Paul stood by the window, glass in hand, posture stiffening. Christopher laughed with relatives nearby, the sound dying abruptly. Silverware stilled. Balloons swayed quietly. I cleared my throat, my voice steady despite my racing heart. Miss me? Gasps rippled through the room. A glass slipped from someone's hand and shattered against the floor. Julie's face drained of color, her mouth frozen open, hands mid-gesture. Helen slammed the tray down and stepped forward. "What are you doing here? This is private." Murmurs spread, phones discreetly raised. I ignored her and faced the crowd. "They told you I died in a crash." They held a service at the community hall. They mourned publicly with prayers and slides. But I'm standing right here alive. The murmuring grew louder. An ant covered her mouth. I opened the folder and placed the death certificate on the coffee table between snack plates. Helen's signature. Vehicular accident, 2015. People leaned closer, whispering as they examined the seal. Next came the inheritance documents. My grandmother's trust, $10,000 meant for me, redirected to Julie because I was listed as deceased. Unease spread through the room. An uncle picked up a page, frowning. "This looks here." The lawyer called me to verify dates. I knew it was fake and stayed silent. "That's on me." Exclamations filled the room. Dana stepped forward, Blake beside her. "We've seen the lies for years," Dana said firmly. "Jenna is alive, and this proves the fraud." Blake crossed his arms. Julie's speech even claims she's the only daughter. The room fractured. Some nodded toward me, murmuring that it finally made sense. Others clustered around Helen, defensive and shaken. "They faked her death for money," someone whispered. Another said it louder. Arguments overlapped, outrage rising. "How could you do this to your own child?" someone demanded. Papers were passed around with trembling hands. Helen raised her arms. "Everyone calm down. This is a misunderstanding. Jenna is twisting things." But the damage was done. Guests exchanged frantic looks, some heading for the door, phones buzzing with messages. Julie's birthday cake sat untouched as the celebration collapsed into silence. Candles melted, forgotten. Icing pooled on plates as the celebration crumbled. Conversations fractured into accusations and defenses. Relatives split sharply. Some approached me quietly, asking, "What really happened all those years ago?" Others rallied behind the family narrative, insisting, "There must be more to it. Let's hear their side." Helen's composure finally broke. Commands and authority ignored, her face flushed with frustration as chaos reigned. One by one, the last guests drifted out, leaving the living room heavy with tension. The aftermath demanded resolution. A family meeting seemed inevitable the next morning. Sunlight streamed through the blinds in Aunt Dana's kitchen, casting stripes across the wooden table where untouched coffee mugs sat. Plates of toast and fruit were arranged, but the room crackled with unease. Family members arrived slowly, exchanging stiff nods and minimal greetings. Blake's quiet presence in the corner grounded me amid the charged atmosphere. We gathered around the table. Chairs scraped against the floor as Helen sat at the head, defensive and tight. Paul slouched beside her, dark circles under his eyes. Julie occupied the opposite side, arms crossed, fiddling with her napkin, defiance in every gesture. Christopher entered last, closing the door softly, avoiding eye contact. Helen broke the silence sharply. "This nonsense ends now. Jenna, your stunt yesterday humiliated us in front of everyone." I met her gaze evenly. "Humiliation? You faked my death and stole what was mine. That's the real issue." The argument erupted. Voices overlapped, tension thickening the air. Julie leaned forward, aggressive. "You abandoned us first. Disappeared without a word. Why drag this up now and ruin my day?" Dana's voice cut firmly through the noise. "Because lies like yours don't stay buried forever, and Jenna deserves answers." Blake added, calm but firm. "The evidence speaks for itself. It's not just her word." Paul rubbed his temples, hands unsteady, finally speaking. "I knew about the certificate from the start. Saw Helen prepare it, but I stayed quiet to keep some semblance of peace. It was wrong. I own that now." His confession hung in the air, shifting the room's energy. Helen's fury flared. "You what? This is betrayal of the worst kind." Paul shook his head slowly.
"No.
The real betrayal was letting our daughter be erased without a fight. I should have stopped it then. Christopher nodded, conflicted. I regret not questioning sooner. I heard the whispers but ignored them. The room settled briefly, the weight of truth pressing on everyone.